Well, hello there. I'm Dr. Hamilton Stubbs. I'm a triple board certified physician, certified nutrition specialist, medical researcher, the co-author of medical textbook chapters, the health editor for the Herald, the official publication of the International Association of Ministers' Wives and Ministers' Widows. I'm a medical missionary, but most of all, I used to be just like you. I had serious medical problems, but I didn't realize how serious they were. My doctor had diagnosed me with hypertension, told me to watch my salt, exercise a little more, and to take a diuretic, which I did. And I thought that eventually I'd get off of the pill because I hadn't been on the pill before I took medication for an injury that I got in an automobile accident. But when I stopped taking that first medication, guess what? My blood pressure did not go down. So I was diagnosed with hypertension. I wanted to get off of that blood pressure medication from the time that it was prescribed, but even more so during the coronavirus pandemic when I learned that people with hypertension had a greater risk of severe COVID-19 and death. I did everything the doctor told me. Not only did I reduce my salt intake, I cut out all added salt. Then I started cooking all my food at home so I could eliminate salt. My blood pressure did go down a little bit, but it didn't go down enough for me to get off medication. And yes, I was exercising. So I just kept thinking maybe if I just lost a little more weight. I didn't know exactly what to do, but I knew I didn't want to keep taking hypertensive medications or antihypertensives. I formed a private Facebook group during the pandemic called Minding the Temple. This was an extension of the work that I was doing pre-pandemic, and I just brought it online. And what we are is a group of women, most of us are 50 and better, and we are just interested in improving our health span and increasing health span so that health span matches lifespan. And that's what we do in this group, things that will enhance our health span. One of the things we did to enhance our health span is we did a 7-day no added sugar challenge. Boy, did that change my life and the life of some of the women in the group. After just 7 days of eating no added sugar, my blood pressure normalized. And I kept doing the no added sugar diet along with a reduction in my salt intake and my exercise. And when I saw the doctor in the fall, I was taken off of my medication. I lost 27 pounds and my hemoglobin A1C, a biomarker for diabetes, had gone down from 5.6 to 5.3. But I'm not the only one who benefited. I started to hear other stories, amazing stories from women who told me things like, my chest pain and shortness of breath went away. My joints started feeling better. Brain fog cleared up. I had more energy. One lady said she could feel inflammation just going out of her body. Wow, could all of this be due to sugar? I had to find out. So I put on my researcher's hat and I started looking at the effects of sugar. Now, I first heard that sugar wasn't good for us back in 2010, but I didn't realize how bad it is for us. So I did the research and I want to share with you some of what I found. So I put together a presentation, The Truth About Sugar, because I want you to have this information so you can make a decision on if you want to do like so many of us. We reduced or eliminated added sugar in our diets. So let me share my screen and I'll show you the presentation. truth about sugar. Disclaimer alert. This webinar is for information only, and it's not medical advice. It doesn't establish a doctor-patient relationship. I, yours truly, am a medical researcher, co-author of medical textbook chapters, the health editor for the Herald, the official publication of the International Association of Ministers' Wives and Ministers' Widows, and I am the author of a book called I Claim Health, a blueprint for what I started doing during the pandemic to reclaim my health. The book's available on Amazon if you'd like to get that book. And I also created a companion course, I Claim Health, the course. I'm not a dietitian and I'm not a nutritionist. I'm a physician and I'm triple board certified. I have 2 boards in sleep medicine and I'm board certified as a pediatrician. These are 2 areas of medicine where we definitely study the effects of food on the body. Well, I also studied the effects of food as a child neurologist. So people like to commonly say physicians don't learn anything about nutrition. There are certain areas in medicine we focus heavily on nutrition. In fact, the keto diet was actually started in neurology as a way of controlling epilepsy. Just a side note, but during the pandemic, I wanted to get even more knowledge about nutrition, so I became a certified nutrition specialist. The information in this webinar is thought to be accurate at the time that I'm publishing it, but it's not a replacement for you to do your own research, your own reading, and most importantly, talk to your healthcare provider. I recommend people talk with your healthcare provider before you make any changes in your diet. During this presentation, here's 3 things that I hope to accomplish. I want to define table sugar and added sugar. I want to increase your awareness of sugar's adverse impact upon our health. And I want to help participants like you identify added sugar in our foods by reading the nutrition label. This webinar is for people who want to know more about the impact of sugar upon our health, people who want to decrease the cost of medication, and I'll explain that more as we go on in this presentation, and people who want to improve their health like I did, and so many of the women who also did that 7-day no added sugar challenge. Why I wrote the I Claim Health and book and created the course. I'm Dr. Hamilton Stubbs, triple board certified physician, certified nutrition specialist, and I'm passionate about helping people reverse chronic illness or just improve your health, especially as it relates to diet and lifestyle. But I used to be just like you, and sugar was ruining my health, and I didn't even realize it because I thought that I was healthy. And I thought my diet was nutritious. I mean, I was eating organic and I was mostly vegetarian. How healthy can you get? But at the beginning of the pandemic, when things slowed down and I had time to focus on my own self, I realized that I didn't feel healthy. For all the things that I was doing, the supplements and vitamins, the organic food, all the healthy food from the healthy food section at the grocery store, the exercise that I had been doing and increased at my doctor's recommendation, I didn't feel healthy. In fact, I was very tired, even though I was getting adequate sleep. So as a sleep doctor, the first thing I did was check myself for obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. I didn't have that. So then I started to look at what could be impairing my health so that I don't feel healthy and I feel so tired. This is where I started. My weight was 27 pounds above where it should be. I was overweight, not pleasingly plump like I'd been telling myself for years. And my blood pressure I was actually at stage 2 hypertension, and my hemoglobin A1C level of 5.6, although it was within normal limits, it was just zero point 0.1 away from being pre-diabetic. And when I think about that and how happy I was that my lab report said it was normal, I get goosebumps because no one, no doctor even suggested that I needed to do something to bring down my hemoglobin A1C. Had I not taken matters into my own hands, I probably would be pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetes by now. So I needed to turn my health around, and I needed to turn it around quickly. I had 3 things that put me at risk for dying from COVID-19: obesity, hypertension, and diabetes. So here's where I started. Before the pandemic, my blood pressure was 146 over 86. My weight was 157 pounds. I had hypertension. I wasn't pre-diabetic, but I was very close. And I had fatigue. My doctor had started me on a diuretic to lose some fluid to bring down my blood pressure. And I had started to increase my exercise. In year 2 of the pandemic, after I started monitoring my salt intake, exercising, but reduced my added sugar intake, my blood pressure decreased to 127 over 72, and I went down to 137 pounds. My blood pressure continued to decrease in year 3 and went down to like 114. Sometimes it's even 112 over 60. But if I don't stay on that diet, my blood pressure will go up and I'll become hypertensive again if I start eating sugar again. So what happened? The 7-day no added sugar challenge is what happened. It made me aware of how sugar was impacting my health. So I started to limit my consumption of sugar by reading the food label. See, some of those healthy foods that I had, like my favorite kombucha, had 14 grams of added sugar per serving, and it was healthy. So I always had 2 servings. So before I even had lunch, I was well above the recommended daily amount for added sugar in the diet. So in 2020, the federal government changed the food label so that it is a standard format now. And this is what I'm showing you here. There's 4 sections that all food manufactured in the US must have. The top section is our nutrition facts, servings. The second is calories. The lower section below calories is nutrients. And then on the corner over here is the daily value. When you look at the nutrients section, you'll see it has total fats, cholesterol, sodium, and total carbohydrates. This is the section where you're going to find how much added sugar is in that food, if you're lucky. And I'll tell you that manufacturers do have a way of getting around the requirements to label added sugar content. And they do it legally because they have found a way to hide sugar in our food. But you do well to look at the total carbohydrates, go down to dietary fiber, total sugars, and right below total sugar is where you're going to find added sugar. This is what you really want to pay attention to. So what is table sugar? Table sugar is a carbohydrate that's made from 2 simple sugars. You have glucose and fructose married to each other to give you table sugar. Now, sugar is coming originally from a plant that was used 6,000 years before Christ over in New Guinea, which is an island off the coast of Australia. Initially, sugar traveled to China and to India, and it was laborious work to harvest this plant and make the sugar cane. That's very laborious work. And so labor was very expensive. And because labor was expensive, sugar was expensive. And only the wealthy people could afford to eat sugar. They didn't have big canisters of sugar either. They had little pouches and they carried it around and sprinkled a little bit on their food. And you could tell the wealthy people because when they smiled, they had dental caries and missing teeth. But then sugar spread over into Europe. And in Portugal, they hired indentured servants from surrounding countries where people needed work. They would migrate over to Portugal and work in these sugar factories and sugar farms. And the price came down. But the price really dropped when the manufacturers discovered an even cheaper source of labor called slavery. And they either captured slaves off the coast of Africa or they bought humans and enslaved them to work in the factories. This brought the sugar price down and even more people could afford it. Then slavery spread across into what was called the New World, the United States, the Caribbean, and into South America. And with the spread of slavery went sugar, and sugar cane production became very inexpensive. And when it became so inexpensive, nearly everyone could afford it. It traveled all over the world and became known as white gold because it made so much money for the people who were producing sugar. So, what's the big deal with sugar? We grew up with it for the most part, and that's what people say. I've been eating sugar all my life, and I like sugar. And here's what I hear some people say: well, you have to die from something. That's true, but you don't have to die prematurely, and you don't have to have aches and pains and chronic disease and costly medications before you die. But we have to do something to turn our health around. And one of the big things is being mindful of the amount of sugar that you consume, because it's just sugar, is what many people say. But would you care if you knew how sugar was impacting your health? It affects almost every organ in our body. It causes premature aging of the skin. Oh no. So, all those wrinkles that we spend so much money on Botox, retinol, and different types of dermatologic treatments would slow down if we didn't have sugar damaging our collagen and our elastin, two, two parts of protein, two types of protein that help the skin structure. It also affects our brain. It causes brain fog, dementia, and some people have even linked it to Alzheimer's disease. It can elevate your blood pressure, and an elevated blood pressure is damaging to the brain. It can cause strokes and encephalopathy and confusion. It also is harmful to our eyes, especially the back of our eyes, where the blood pressure flow and the sugar can damage the back of our eyes and causes visual problems. It affects our heart, causes us to get cardiac damage, heart attacks, and it causes indirectly hypertension will cause the heart to have to pump harder and give you an enlarged heart called cardiomyopathy, which doesn't pump blood effectively and can lead to congestive heart failure, and congestive heart failure can lead to premature dying. It's also very damaging to our kidneys, directly and indirectly, because hypertension will damage those small blood vessels that are filtering fluid as it goes through the kidneys. Sugar will kill your good bacteria in your gut. That means it damages your microbiome. And this can cause things like depression, sleep disorders, anxiety, and dysbiosis of the gut. Sugar will depress your immune system, and it's been linked to autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis. Sugar will disrupt your sleep. When researchers look at people who eat a lot of sugar and those who don't, those who eat a lot of sugar have a decrease in deep sleep and they have fragmented dream sleep. These are two stages of sleep that you really want to have because deep sleep is when we do a lot of restoration of our health, and REM sleep is when we rebuild our muscles and store memory. We need all our stages of sleep, and sugar will fragment the sleep and decrease certain stages of sleep. And what the researchers discovered during the coronavirus pandemic, that if you have two people, one with normal sugar, one with elevated blood sugar, the person with the elevated blood sugar is more likely to get infected with the SARS-CoV-2 virus that caused COVID-19. In other words, you get greater risk of COVID-19 if your sugar level is too high. The top 6 diseases in the United States are diabetes, hypertension, cancer, obesity, Alzheimer's disease, and COVID-19. And they're all linked to overconsumption of sugar. So here's some other diseases that have been linked to eating too much sugar: obesity, cancer, fatty liver, periodontal disease, dental caries, dysbiosis of the gut, osteopenia, and acne. This is a big one for younger people, but we also get acne again in our adult life, and sugar can be aggravating your skin to the point that it's causing wrinkles as well as acne. So where's table sugar come from? It comes from the juice of sugar canes and sugar beets. And in the United States, most of our sugar comes from sugar beets. But there's a big difference between the juice that's coming directly from that sugar cane or the sugar beet. Here's the difference. When we get the juice from sugar cane, fresh pressed sugar cane juice contains phosphorus, potassium, calcium, iron and magnesium, and vitamins. Vitamins A, B1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. And it also contains vitamin C. And here's something that's very unusual. Sugarcane juice contains vitamin E, which is a powerful antioxidant, and you don't find it in many foods, but you will find it in fresh squeezed sugarcane juice. When you look at just 3.5 ounces of sugarcane juice, it only has 39 calories. So it's low, a low caloric beverage. When you look at the sugar beets, it's a great source of fiber. It has folate, which is very helpful for the development of the brain and neural function. It has manganese, potassium, iron, and vitamin C. In fact, beet juice and beet roots are used to lower blood pressure. And some athletes use it as a beverage before they do exercise or competitions because the nitric oxide in beet juice has been shown to enhance performance. It also dilates those blood vessels so your blood pressure won't be so high. But when you take that juice from the sugar cane or the sugar beet and you spin it all around and process it into table sugar, it has this much nutritional value: 0. In fact, it's called empty calories. Table sugar affects the brain. And this is one of the reasons it's difficult to just stop eating sugar, because now that you know what sugar can do to your body, how it can adversely impact your health, you're probably saying, I think I'll just stop eating sugar. And for some people, it is possible to just stop eating sugar. But for others, it's a challenge because sugar stimulates the reward system and it elevates your mood by increasing the secretion of certain hormones like serotonin and dopamine. These are known as the happiness hormones, and they elevate your mood. So when you stop eating sugar, your brain is looking for something to give it that boost again, which leads to craving for sugar. Also, when you start eating sugar, it can cause you to overeat because you're not really getting any nutrients. So you just keep eating, trying to fulfill the body's need for nutritional value. Sugar causes sleepiness because it blocks the receptors that stimulate wakefulness. It blocks the hormone that stimulates the wakefulness and gives you something like a self-induced form of narcolepsy, which is a sleeping disorder. Sugar is associated with depression and anxiety. It can disrupt your sleep. It causes hardening of the arteries and cardiac disease, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and fatty liver. Do you know fatty liver used to only be found in adult alcoholics, but now children as young as 10, younger than 10, are being diagnosed with fatty liver because of all the sugar and carbohydrate in the diet. And fatty liver left untreated can become cirrhosis of the liver, and cirrhosis of the liver can become a fatal condition. Sugar has been linked to dementia, brain fog, and of course, dental caries, and your dental health is linked to your heart health. There's different types of sugar. These are the simple sugars: glucose, fructose, dextrose, galactose, sucrose, lactose, and maltose. You notice anything similar to all of these sugars? They all have in common the ending OSE. So when you're reading the nutritional label and you look at the ingredients, look for words that end in OSE. And now that the manufacturers know that you're looking for added sugar and you're trying to stay away from high fructose corn syrup, so they're putting in maltose, which is at the bottom of this list. So when you see that, that is your added sugar. Okay, so you say, I'm not going to eat sugar, I'm going to eat a sugar alternative. And the most popular sugar alternatives are honey, agave, molasses, date syrup, brown sugar, and I think this is pronounced turbinado sugar. But let me tell you why these are not such good alternatives. Now, they have a lot of fructose. If you notice, honey has just 40% fructose, whereas table sugar has 50%. Honey also has a few vitamins and minerals in it, and some people consider it to be a health food. But our Bible tells us not to eat excessive amounts of honey, just a little bit. Agave used to be very popular, and people thought of it as healthy, but look how much fructose is in it. Agave has more fructose than table sugar. Molasses has low fructose level, but it also has a very strong flavor. So you have to develop a taste for molasses, and it can change the flavor of the foods that you're eating. Date syrup is about the same as honey for fructose content. And then some people substitute white table sugar for brown sugar, but there's really no difference. They both have 50% fructose. And this is why that's important. This is what fructose looks like. Our bodies aren't made to handle high loads of fructose. So it's damaging to our liver. It causes liver toxicity. And it's associated with that muffin top that we all want to get rid of, especially in the summertime where you can't wear a jacket and you want to wear a bikini, but you don't want that big fat belly hanging over your top of your bikini. So your bikini bottom. So this is what fructose is doing. It's causing truncal obesity. And when we get obesity around our trunk, stomach fat, belly fat, this is the bad fat because it is an endocrine gland that causes inflammation and diseases. Now, you can get fructose from table sugar, your fruits and vegetables, including the sugar cane, sugar beets, and corn. But the difference between table sugar and getting it from fruits and vegetables are the fruits and vegetables are going to come with some fiber, and that fiber slows the absorption of the fructose. So you don't dump fructose into the liver, and the body has a chance to metabolize and do something with it. Plus, in the fruits and vegetables, you're going to get some vitamins and minerals that are going to be very good for your health. When we eat our food, digestion starts in the mouth. We have to chew adequately to liquefy the food, but also to cover it with the microbiome in the mouth. These are the bacteria in our mouth, as well as the enzymes in our mouth that help us break down the food, which will go through the esophagus into the stomach, into our small intestines, where it's going to be broken down more by your good microbiome, those good bacteria, and then absorb, the nutrients will be absorbed into your body. The glucose is going to go to cells because our body can use that right away. But fructose isn't used by the cells directly. So it has to go to the liver, where the liver will process it into something that the body can use. So this is how the body handles fructose and glucose. So on the fructose side, your body will take fructose in the liver and convert it to fatty acids and triglycerides. So if you ever have your cholesterol level checked and you notice that your triglycerides are high, it could be due to your carbohydrate and added sugar consumption, not just to are you eating foods with high cholesterol level. It could just be from those carbohydrate processed foods that you're eating and the added sugar in your food. When your body sees glucose, it goes to cells and it's used. Even the brain, the muscles, it's used right away. Now, if you overeat, all the energy that's extra is stored, and it's usually stored as fat. So, what is diabetes? I wanted to talk about diabetes today because it is one of the most common diseases that happen to people, especially as we get older. Many people will be diagnosed with diabetes type 2 or type 2 diabetes. And diabetes is an impairment of how the body regulates and uses glucose. When diabetes is diagnosed, the healthcare provider is going to usually draw a blood sample and look for something called hemoglobin A1C. When that lab test comes back, if it's less than 5.7, it's considered normal. 5.7 to 6.4 is prediabetes, and then 6.5 and higher on 2 occasions is how diabetes is diagnosed. What causes diabetes? Cells in the muscle, the fat, or the liver become resistant to insulin, or the pancreas isn't able to produce enough insulin to manage blood sugar levels. So where's all this sugar in our diets coming from? The bulk of it is coming from soft drinks. And we also get a lot from baked goods, fruit drinks, dairy, desserts, candy, cereal, and tea. And our fruit beverages, things like orange juice, those are going to have high sugar levels. So what is added sugar? Added sugar doesn't occur naturally. It is added to food to enhance the flavor. It's used as a preservative to extend the shelf life, and it's used by manufacturers as a marketing tool. There used to be a popular commercial where they said, "You can't eat just one. I bet you can't eat just one." Well, there's a reason why you can't put down the bag of cookies. And that's because manufacturers hire food scientists to come up with recipes that put just enough sugar into the food to make you want that product, to make you crave the product, but not so much that you don't want to eat it, because if it was too sweet, you wouldn't want it. And that preservative, sugar as a preservative, can extend that shelf life. So the manufacturers want their product to have a long shelf life, but that's not your life that they're focused on. Added sugar has no nutritive value and it is considered toxic. The American Heart Association recommends that we limit the amount of sugar that we consume. The amount of added sugar should be limited to no more than 6 teaspoons in a day for women and 9 teaspoons in a day for men. And this is what it looks like. 6 teaspoons at the top for women and 9 teaspoons for men. So when you read the food label, 4 grams of sugar equals 1 teaspoon. So let's go and see, can we find some sugar in your diet? Look at the food labels. The FDA's new regulations came into effect in 2020, so all food labels should have the section that tells you the nutrient content of the product, find total carbohydrates, and then go down the list until you see added sugars. Here's an example. This is a container of yogurt that I thought was very healthy. It's a vanilla flavor and it doesn't have any added fruit in it. But when you look at this label, here's your number of servings, here's the calories per serving, fat, cholesterol, sodium, your total carbohydrates, and then if you get to the bottom of the total carbohydrate section, you'll see it has 11 grams of added sugar. Well, that's almost 3 teaspoons of sugar, and that's about half of your daily recommended amount of sugar if you're a woman. Yogurt is usually eaten at breakfast time, so in my household at least. So that means if you're having yourself some yogurt and you have to make sure you're getting 2/3 cup, I never measured it. I usually just get some spoon and just pour it out until I feel like I have enough. You're going to have too much added sugar if you're not careful. So you want to make sure when you're reading this label that you go down to added sugar. When I realized how much added sugar I was getting in one of my favorite yogurts, I switched yogurts. This was a name brand, but I went to the store brand, which was actually cheaper and healthier for me. Added sugars include sugars that are added during the processing of foods, things like sucrose and dextrose, those sugars that we talked about first, and then foods packaged as sweeteners, sugars from syrups and honey, and sugars from concentrated fruit and vegetable juices. But they do not include naturally occurring sugars. And this is how manufacturers can sweeten their product and not have to put it on the label. They put in naturally occurring sugars, and your product could have a lot of sugar in it that doesn't appear on the label. But for right now, we're just going to concentrate on looking at the label and making sure that we keep our added sugar within the guidelines of the American Heart Association's daily recommended amount, 6 teaspoons a day for women, 9 for men. So why is it so difficult to stop eating sugar? What's working on your brain, on your reward system? And it's not considered a drug, but some people think it acts like a drug. When you don't get your dose of sugar, you start craving it. In fact, there are some people who will tell you that they can't get their morning started unless they have a cup of coffee with sugar and sometimes creams in there. Sugar activates the reward system in the brain, and this stimulates dopamine and serotonin, the happiness hormones. And we have lives that are full of stressors. These can be good stressors or bad stressors, but they all affect the body in some kind of way. But usually, when we think of bad stress, like day didn't go well, family troubles, money troubles, these are the stressors that tend to send us seeking out comfort foods. These comfort foods are usually high in carbohydrates, they're packaged, they're desserts, they have lots of added sugar, and these are the things that will elevate trigger your reward system and cause you to get into this cycle of craving sugar. Then you have your triggers, your social gatherings. Like, who wants to stay home when everybody else is at a party? But you know that if you go, you might get tempted because there'll be food on the table or the buffet that's not on your diet. And then there's sales at the grocery store. When I used to see my favorite ice cream on sale, I had a hard time resisting it. I mean, it was 50% off. I could buy two containers. I don't have that problem anymore. And then at holidays, those can be very challenging for my patients that come and see me who have obstructive sleep apnea syndrome and want to lose weight. We don't even try to lose weight during the end of the year holiday season, from Thanksgiving to New Year's, because that's the time where there's lots of festivities and people have a very difficult time staying on a diet. So the goal used to be just don't gain weight over the holidays. And then we would pick up with things in the new year. The other thing that makes it difficult for us to stop eating sugar is how we rationalize. We reason with ourselves, really telling ourselves little lies like, I'm going to buy this container of ice cream and I'm only going to eat 1 tablespoon. Well, you know you're not. And when you start eating that 1 tablespoon, you say, well, let me just have one more. And before you know it, you've eaten the whole container. So that's one of the reasons why it's difficult. It's because we tell ourselves we can stop doing it. And some of us can, but most of us are not able to because it takes more than willpower to get off of sugar and to start eating healthier. So here's my story. I discovered that I could lower my blood pressure if I took added sugar out of my diet. So I did. But that was pretty hard to do because I like a little sugar. So then I found out that the American Heart Association has guidelines that would allow me to have some sugar. So I just had added sugar within those guidelines. But when things started to open up, people started to congregate, have fun, restaurants were open, it became unsustainable because you can't figure out how much sugar's in most of this pre-packaged or pre-made foods. So I put on my researcher's hat and started to look for sustainable ways to improve my health, things that I could do for the long term. That's when I discovered that people who work in the area of obesity medicine have come to the conclusion that diets don't work. Most of the people who are on these diets might lose weight and you might lose a lot of weight. But when they come off of the diet, they tend to gain the weight back. So I needed something more sustainable because I've already proven to myself that I just didn't want to resist all of the invitations and activities that centered around fellowship and food. I combined mindful eating, intuitive eating with the science of sleep medicine and my knowledge of neurology to create a program that I call sensual eating. And I offer this program in the I Claim Health course. Now, the book has more details because it's not just focused on the eating part. but the course is focused on sleeping, exercise, your diet, and faith. It increases awareness of how sugar can make you feel. And when you do that, you will gravitate, hopefully, toward things that make you feel better. So in my case, I started to notice that when I ate certain foods, I was tired or I had brain fog. I couldn't think as clearly or as quickly as when I didn't eat that big hunk of cake with a scoop of ice cream. So I naturally started to gravitate toward things that helped me feel good, and that was fruit and some vegetables. So I eat way less sugar now, and guess what? My joints don't hurt me anymore, and my blood pressure has come down, and it stays down as long as I don't indulge in added sugar or eat too much. So I seldom eat sugary desserts. I want you to benefit from some of the things that I've learned that have improved my health. So I created the I Claim Health course, and I'm going to give you the link so you can go and check that out. I hope that you'll join me, and I'll teach you my sensual eating program. It's the method for experiencing food, not just gulping the food down because you need to put something into your stomach. And I'm going to help you with how to cultivate gratitude, something that can actually help you win the battle against sugar cravings. This program is going to show you how to enjoy your food. And we're going to look at how many hours of sleep do you need, because sleep has a range 7 to 9 hours for most people. But you might be a 7 hour person, or an 8 hour person, or a 9 hour person. So, how do you know? I'm going to show you what a lot of sleep specialists use, a simple tool and method to find out the hours of sleep that you most likely need so you can get adequate amounts of sleep. Because researchers have shown that if you just get 90 minutes less sleep than your body needs, you will crave sugars and fat, and you can gain lots of extra weight, like 500 calories, just because you're sleep deprived. When you sleep better, you can control your sugar consumption better. It's the I Claim Health program. I'm going to offer this program March 24th, 25th, and 2023, and I may offer it again later on in the year. You can register at the link below or on this slide here. I want to give thanks to God who allows me to work as a medical missionary and brought you to me so I can share with you how I reversed some of my chronic illnesses, regain my energy so that I can enjoy myself. And I'm not on that treadmill associated with hypertension, where you start out with one pill, then you get two pills, and before you know it, you're on three pills. That is gone. And it's a simple method that I want to share with you. I thank my family who's very supportive of me, and I want to thank you for your time and your attention. I hope that you'll seriously look at the I Claim Health course and join me for 5 hours of time together where I'm going to help you understand this method of how to get healthier. I love seeing people get healthier, and I love hearing testimonials, like the lady who contacted me and told me she was actually scheduled for surgical wound debridement, but she implemented some of the things that I had discussed, and her wound healed spontaneously, and surgery was canceled. Yay! The body was made to heal itself. And if we learn how to do that, we will be much better off. Now, I'm not against conventional medicine. I just think there are things that we can do to be savvy consumers in the healthcare system. I hope to see you at the next class. Bye now.